From the far black corners of deep interstellar space, beyond the Oort cloud, beyond Neptune's icy grip, beyond everything we've mapped, two visitors have arrived, uninvited, undeterred, and possibly not natural. Their names are clinical, cold, unimaginative. 3I/ATLS. Swan R2. Codenames. Really. Sterile designations for things no one fully understands. One approaches from the north, one drifts up from the southern ecliptic. Two travelers, two trajectories, two unknowns, and for the first time in recorded human history, they're not alone. If you're still watching, subscribe now. You crave more than answers. You seek what lies beyond. Subscribe now and be part of the few who never stop searching. 3I/ATLS wasn't supposed to be special, just another interstellar interloper. The third ever detected after Oumuamua and 2I/Borisov. But what it brought with it shattered everything we thought we knew about what space is capable of delivering. 9 objects, smaller than the host, but not by much, moving in a perfect delta formation, like some kind of celestial escort convoy. No irregular tumbling, no gravitational drift. They didn't trail behind like debris. They flew alongside, synchronized, as if aware of each other. And then the energy readings came in. Each of the 9 companions, roughly the size of small asteroids, radiating with power outputs upwards of 20 gigawatts. That's the kind of energy you'd expect from a fully powered destroyer. Not a rock. Not something hurtling through vacuum. Not something that shouldn't even be emitting heat, let alone radiation signatures this organized. They came into view in less than 1/100th of a millisecond. One moment nothing. The next, formation, solid, silent, impossibly fast, no signs of ejection, no debris trail, no flares, just there. Astronomers scrambled for answers. Natural fragmentation, they said at first. Maybe it broke apart recently, but the vectors didn't match. These weren't fragments. They were co-travelers. The shock wasn't just in their formation, it was in their composition. Spectrographic analysis showed that all 9 companions shared the exact same spectral signature as 3I/ATLS. Same surface reflectivity, same chemical footprint, same exotic trace elements. But where 3I/ATLS exhibited what might loosely be considered cometary behavior, sporadic outgassing, a slight coma, the companions did not. They were quiet, controlled, focused, and yet, they glowed. No natural comet radiates sustained gigawatts of energy while maintaining directional movement in formation. No known asteroid emits these signatures. No cosmic fragment just materializes in formation and glides effortlessly on a synchronized vector. Unless it's not a fragment. Unless it was designed. And just as scientists were beginning to reckon with the implications of 3I/ATLS, a second object entered the theater. Swan R2. It came from the opposite direction. Brighter, heavier, slower, radiating in a spectrum we don't have names for yet. And while it had no companions of its own, its signal painted a picture of immense density, far beyond anything expected of a comet or rogue asteroid. Its approach coincides almost perfectly with ATLS. 2 separate interstellar objects, moving toward the Sun from opposing angles, at nearly the same time, within the same year. The odds are astronomical. And yet, here we are. Now, across darkened control rooms and sealed conference calls, government agencies are no longer treating this like an astronomical curiosity. This is a strategic anomaly. Something is maneuvering. Something has purpose. The Pentagon is quiet, but not inactive. Assets are moving, orbital and otherwise. NASA isn't talking. NORAD won't confirm, and private tracking networks have noticed unusual activity. Classified launches, redirected satellites, radio telescopes pointed not at the sky, but at very specific coordinates in deep space. We've seen this before. Not the phenomena. The pattern. Silence, suppression, surveillance. Because no one wants to admit the one possibility that stands behind every sleepless night in every aerospace command bunker on the planet, that these aren't rocks. They're craft, autonomous, silent, surveying, or worse, waiting. There are whispers among the astrophysics community behind closed doors, off-record conversations, encrypted threads. Some believe these objects might be interstellar probes, sentient machines designed to observe, to record, maybe to interact. But the shape, the behavior, the impossible energy, none of it fits within the framework of anything humanity's ever encountered. We don't even know how they're moving. Propulsion? No evidence. Radiation trails? None. Gravitational lensing? Possibly, but inconsistent. The most outlandish theory now sits quietly on the desk of more than one very serious man, that these are field effect craft. Not using thrust, but altering the very space around them. Manipulating space-time, not moving through it. The kind of thing we theorize with blackboard chalk and mathematical models, but have never ever observed, until now. If true, it's not just a scientific revolution, it's a paradigm collapse, and the implications are cascading fast. Because this isn't just an academic exercise in new physics. This is a security situation, one that challenges everything from orbital sovereignty to planetary defense. If these are probes, then who sent them? And more pressingly, why now? The timing is uncanny. Both objects approaching perihelion within months of each other. Both visible to Earth-based telescopes at the same time, and both behaving in ways no natural body ever has. There's precedent, if not in science, then in story. Ancient civilizations recorded sky events not just as omens, but as turning points. Comets, flares, celestial objects appearing before great societal shifts. The Sumerians, the Chinese, the Mayans, even the Old Testament speaks of signs in the heavens as precursors to change. Could this be a coincidence? Sure. Could it be a warning? Possibly. Could it be a message? That's the one scenario no agency is ready to handle, at least not publicly. Because if these objects are more than physical, if they are communicative, interactive, intelligent, then the Earth isn't just a passive observer anymore. We're participants. And that comes with consequences. The question now isn't whether they're real. We know they're real. The question is, what happens next? Do we attempt contact? Do we send signals? Do we launch interceptors? Or do we wait, and risk forfeiting the initiative to something that may already know far more about us than we do about them? The corridors of global power are swirling with conflicting advice. Scientists say observe. Military leaders whisper prepare. Politicians plead ignorance. And you, standing at the threshold of the most significant cosmic encounter in human history, are left wondering if we've just been noticed, or if this is the moment they've been waiting for. Because this feels orchestrated. Two interstellar objects, arriving in tandem, at the same time, with signals, formations and energy levels that shatter everything we thought we knew about the silent void beyond our world. Some say it's the dawn of a new scientific era. Some say it's the prelude to first contact. Others fear it's something else entirely. But one truth remains inescapable. They are coming, and the world, for all its preparation, secrecy and science, is not ready. The final approach begins now. Perihelion is near. Whatever these objects are, whatever their origin, purpose or potential, they are about to reveal themselves in full view of the sun, the earth and every pair of eyes capable of witnessing the impossible. And when they do, everything will change. History won't remember our debates. It won't care about our skepticism, our silence, our scrambling calculations. It will only remember what we did when the stars came closer. So ask yourself, what story will we write? What legacy will we leave? Are we observers of the unknown, or architects of our own first encounter? Because ready or not, the door has opened, and something or someone has stepped through. If you found this story as unsettling and as urgent as we did, share it. Don't let it fade into the silence. Subscribe for more deep dive reports, and stay alert. The sky is talking. It's time we start listening. Listening requires more than ears. It demands courage, context, clarity. And right now, the world has none of those. Because as the days shorten and the light from these objects grows stronger, something else is emerging. Less visible, but just as real. Fear. Not the kind you feel in a thunderstorm or a blackout. Not fear of the unknown. This is fear of what's known, and of what's been deliberately withheld. Because somewhere in classified labs and hardened command centers, someone already knows more than they're saying. They've had the telemetry, the data, the infrared signatures, the spectrograph patterns, the anomalies, the artifacts, the trajectory updates. They've been watching longer than you think. There were changes, subtle, almost imperceptible, but real. 3I/ATLAS was decelerating, not due to solar drag, not gravity, not cometary outgassing. No, this was controlled. A precise measured drop in velocity, just enough to shift into a new orbital arc, like a glider making final adjustments before landing. You don't break in deep space unless you mean to. And Swan R2, its reflectivity changed in intervals, oscillating between high albedo and low, in a sequence, a pulse, a pattern. Some say it resembled binary, others say it followed the Fibonacci sequence. Either way, it wasn't random. Light doesn't pulse like that on its own. It transmits, and what it's transmitting might not be for us, or worse, it is. But here's the problem. We're not a united voice. We're not a prepared world. We're fractured, distracted, bickering about borders and economies while the stars stare back with silent intent. Our most powerful instruments, our space telescopes, radio arrays, planetary defense networks, were never designed for this. They were built to study, to monitor, not to respond. And now that something has responded, whether by proximity, pattern, or pulse, we find ourselves staring up, mouths dry, hearts pounding, wondering whether we're witnessing the greatest opportunity in human history, or the last warning. Because that's the weight now pressing on every high-level meeting, every emergency directive, every unacknowledged launch. What is this? A test, a scout, an envoy, or a countdown? The more you dig, the darker it gets. Old documents, long buried, suddenly relevant. Declassified intelligence reports from the Cold War referencing orbital anomalies and non-ballistic returns. Ancient sky charts showing comet formations that arrived with eerie regularity, always in pairs, always from opposite directions, every few centuries, sometimes every few millennia. What if this isn't new? What if we've seen them before? What if we forgot? Some cultures didn't. The Hopi spoke of sky visitors, Kachina, who came in pairs to inspect the earth and return balance. The Dogon people described star beings who moved through the heavens with glowing escorts. Even the Book of Ezekiel, written over 2,000 years ago, describes a great cloud with fire enfolding itself, accompanied by living creatures, moving straight forward without turning. They sound like myths, until you see 3I/ATLAS, glowing, escorted, deliberate, and you begin to wonder if our ancestors simply used the language they had for what they saw. And if so, what are we looking at now? Here's where it turns. Because if this is intentional, if these objects are meant to be here, then the Earth is not just a random recipient of cosmic traffic, it's a destination, and destinations imply intent. So you start asking the questions no one wants to voice aloud. Are they observing? Are they scanning? Are they choosing? And if so, what are they choosing for? No signal has come, no direct transmission, no attempt at contact, at least, none that's been made public. But maybe that's not how it works. Maybe their presence is the message. Maybe it's a test of reaction, not readiness. What do we do when something intelligent, not human, not terrestrial, not ours, crosses into our domain, moves with coordination, emits incomprehensible power, and never speaks a word? Do we aim weapons? Do we hide? Do we lie to our people? Do we pretend it's just space debris, like so many tired press briefings suggest? Or do we admit, finally and fully, that we are not alone? Because that admission changes everything. It changes religion. It changes science. It changes politics, power, pride, and policy. It changes what it means to be human. And it forces the most uncomfortable realization of all. We are not in control. That's what terrifies the people in charge. For 100 years we've built a civilization on the belief that the Earth is ours, that we sit at the top of the pyramid, that our technology, our weapons, our intellect, could outmatch any threat. That space was a frontier, not a theater. But now, the pyramid just got a lot taller, and we're not at the top. What comes next depends on whether we can accept that. The objects are nearing perihelion, the point of closest approach to the sun, when their surfaces will glow with peak reflectivity, when their silhouettes will be clearest, when their trajectories will either continue or change. Because if they do change, if they decelerate again, shift orbit, or God forbid, enter Earth intercept vector, then everything moves to a different phase. Not a science problem, not a defense problem, a species problem. And we are not ready. We have no protocol for contact, no unified planetary authority to respond, no shared understanding of what to do if the sky starts talking back. Only panic, only secrets, only scattered, uncoordinated shadows of action. Right now, multiple nations are reportedly launching reconnaissance platforms, quietly, no press releases, no public briefings, but the launch manifests are being doctored. Civilian observers have noted new military traffic on space radars. Something's moving out there, and it's not headed for Mars or the Moon, it's heading toward them. Interceptors, probes, or worse, first strike contingencies. Because when you don't understand what something is, and you can't communicate with it, and you're afraid of what it might do, you treat it like a threat. And when both sides treat each other like a threat, things go wrong. What if this was never about invasion? What if it's a measurement, an evaluation? What if these objects are just scouts, not of conquest, but of character? What if they're watching to see whether Earth responds with fear or with wisdom? Whether we choose dialogue or missiles? Whether we unify or fracture? This may be the ultimate test of what kind of civilization we really are. Are we the clever apes who can break atoms and touch the moon, but still bicker over invisible lines on maps? Or are we something more, something ready to meet the wider universe not as animals, but as equals? The clock is ticking. Every hour brings them closer, and every hour that passes without clarity, without openness, without a plan, we sink deeper into the kind of historical moment that will either mark our ascension or our collapse. Because one way or another, when these objects make their next move, when perihelion comes and goes, and their paths become known, there will be no more secrets, no more deniability, no more pretending. The world will know, and when that happens, you won't be able to unsee it. You won't be able to go back. This is the line, right here, right now, the moment before history changes forever. So take a breath, look up, and ask yourself, what happens when the sky finally answers? What happens when we are no longer alone? You feel it, don't you? That electric pressure in the back of your mind, that low hum under the surface of every headline, every statement, every nervous laugh from someone who doesn't want to admit that something is off. The sense that this moment right now isn't just another week in human history. It's the edge of something vast. You're not alone in feeling it. Around the world, astronomers are staying awake through the night, watching the objects inch closer through trembling optics. Defense analysts are staring at acceleration curves and contingency plans, wondering if any of it would matter. And somewhere buried deep in a hardened bunker, someone is asking the one question no one is allowed to answer: what do they want? Because for all the data, all the modeling, all the advanced imaging and deep spectrum analysis, no one has said it out loud. The possibility we all circle like vultures, but never name. Intention. Are they curious? Are they mapping? Are they probing for weakness? Or are they just watching? That might be worse. A predator moves. A threat reveals itself eventually. But something that simply watches silently, intelligently, with patience beyond anything human, that's a force you can't anticipate. You can't negotiate with it, you can't scare it, and you damn sure can't bluff it. You wait, and that's exactly what's happening now. A global wait, an enforced silence, governments pretending this is nothing, agencies pretending they're monitoring the situation. Meanwhile, Swan R2 has just shifted spectrum again, a coordinated burst of radiation, barely detectable, like a whisper through cosmic static, but perfectly timed with a solar flare. Hidden, masked, on purpose. 3I/AT Lass's companions are now holding an exact 3.2 kilometer spacing from one another, constant, not even a fraction of a degree variance. Nature doesn't do that. That's not chaos, that's choreography. And if someone is choreographing objects moving at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour through interstellar space, then we're not dealing with advanced technology, we're dealing with superior intent. So now, you have to consider what happens if this becomes open. If one of these objects emits a direct signal, if a formation changes, if one of those smaller companions breaks off and adjusts course toward Earth, the headlines would crash every system. The markets wouldn't just tremble, they'd collapse. Faith would be tested. Nations would start looking at each other like threats. Again. Because let's not pretend we're ready. We're barely keeping it together without a cosmic variable in play. And that's what makes this dangerous. Not the objects themselves. Not yet. But us, our reaction, our short-sightedness, our panic, because we've trained ourselves over centuries to believe that anything unknown must be conquered or destroyed. That's how we treat the unknown, as an enemy. But what if that thinking is exactly what they're measuring? What if this is all an exam? No words, no demands, just an opportunity to prove that we are not what they expect, to demonstrate that humanity, even fractured, even imperfect, even deeply flawed, is capable of maturity, of restraint, of curiosity without aggression. You want to know why they haven't made contact. Maybe they already did. Maybe it's been made. In the silence, think about it. If you were them, if you could cross interstellar distances, manipulate space-time, send autonomous probes across light years, you wouldn't just land in front of the UN and ask to speak to the manager. You'd study first. You'd watch. You'd evaluate every signal we send out, every broadcast, every missile test, every panic stockpile, every decision to ignore or suppress the truth, and you'd decide, not based on what we say we are, but what we actually do. So what are we doing? We're hiding. We're whispering behind layers of classified briefings. We're building interceptors with no plan for communication. We're pointing lasers at the dark instead of opening our eyes to the light. And maybe, just maybe, they're waiting for us to stop, because there's a narrow window approaching. A moment during perihelion, when both Swan R2 and 3I/AT-LAS will be on the same side of the sun, briefly aligned, glowing with peak solar reflection. If you were going to transmit a signal between 2 points using the star's electromagnetic field as a carrier wave, that's exactly when you do it. If they're not speaking to us, maybe they're speaking to each other, or maybe they're speaking through us, to someone else. Because here's a darker possibility. What if we're not the target? What if Earth is just a waypoint? What if we're watching an interstellar courier pass through, and we're mistaking it for a guest? Or worse, what if it's a warning beacon? A lighthouse, flashing into the void, signaling something behind it, something still coming, and we primitive, arrogant, unprepared, are standing beneath the beam thinking we've been chosen, when in reality, we're just caught in the path. Collateral visibility. So you have to ask, is this the event, or is this the precursor? That question hangs in every observatory now, behind every set of binoculars, every telescope lens, every satellite dish straining to catch a hint of modulation in the noise. They're all waiting for the sun to reveal the truth, because light hides as much as it reveals. And when the objects reach their closest pass, when that corona peels back and those silhouettes shine in full glory, we'll either be looking at natural beauty, or engineered judgment. And if it's the latter, the countdown doesn't start then. It already started. We just didn't hear the first tick, because we were too busy looking down. But now we're looking up, and we may never look away again. You feel it now, don't you? This isn't just a cosmic event, it's a mirror, held up to a civilization that thought it ruled the void, and now stares back at something older, colder, and infinitely more patient. So ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't alone? Don't wait for them to break the silence, break it yourself. Share this, talk about this, question everything. Subscribe now, because the next signal could come at any moment, and when it does, you'll want to be ready.